Hello, everybody. Welcome to Roll 'em If You Got 'em. I am Dakota, and as always, joined with by Carl.
Hello, everybody.
And in today's episode, leading into continuing on, I should say, our 6 weeks of SLAPCHOP, you're going to see a little bit of, I would say, SLAPCHOP versus the heavy metal style for me. So one of the things I was going to try out in this whole process was slap chopping bone armor. Wasn't really sure how it'd work out because like I've done bone a few different ways. And this is really just like, how would it work? How would it look? So got this Terminator. I do have him slap dropped. I will say he is very, very white. And not a lot of like darker color showing. I think this was one of the first ones I did when I was slap chopping, and half of that I think goes into like I wanted to make sure that like the bone was like showing through.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I do know with this color, like if you do it over black, like it just doesn't do anything.
Right, right.
So I was very much like, yeah, I want it to be bony.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I dry brushed the hell out of this guy. I'll admit that right away.
I almost wonder if you would have, instead of priming him black, primed him like brown, and then did a lighter brown instead of gray, and then did a white or even like a tan instead of white, to see if you almost couldn't create some of those transitions before the actual the paint goes on here.
Right. Yeah. I mean that could definitely be like something to try out, doing like a brown colored like scale up essentially.
Yeah,
I think it could work. Yeah.
I don't think the traditional slap chop would go well with trying to do this
Mhm.
light bone kind of color.
Yeah. But yeah, so basically, I mean, you end up seeing me like I just slap chopped him. You see him here now. I'm just cleaning him up with like some Ushopti bone, just layering that on because I was like, he just wasn't bony enough. I want him more bony.
Yeah.
There's just so many flat panels too, because this is one too. Like you can even see it on his fist where it's like pooled in the middle, and I'm like, that's just not right. So
Yeah, it just
I was definitely like, I'm just gonna like clean up some of these spots and make sure he shows up in more of that like bone color.
you know what I think you need? You need some streak and grime. It might be your answer here.
Maybe streaking grime would be the way to go. But the thing for me though, I'm very much like I like it clean. I don't know. I'm not too much of the like
the grim dark style kind of guy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's not my style. I like it clean, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. Messing around with that stuff lately, you can actually control it and clean it up way better than I thought I was going to be able to. That'll certainly, once we're done with the 6 weeks of slap chop, I'm going to do some things I've learned with streak and grime kind of deal.
Yeah, sure. So I mean, you see the bone armor. I mean, I think it turned out pretty good for what it was. I think it was just too many steps. I think there's a lot of different easier ways that you can do some bone armor without slap chopping. It's just not super necessary. Kind of going to see me here like colors I'm using just to finish up this model. So I went with a thumb. Apparently, I went with ball red, kind of just on these like tabards and like I guess it'd be tabards, like the cloth that he's got going on. It's like I'll make him red and bone colored instead of green because he's gonna be like in my Deathwing. Going that style. And I mean, this is just a pretty bright red that's fairly solid. I don't think it was, I think it turned out fine for what it is.
These areas, I think you definitely could have let the slap chop shine a little more with the cloth and things like that. That's where it works best, really.
For sure, yeah.
It's where there's recesses and fabrics and things that aren't exactly metal.
Yeah,
for sure.
And the thing too is, I believe this guy might have actually been the first one that I've started painting in my 6 weeks of slap chop.
Okay.
But I don't remember. But yeah, so I hit just some like orc flesh on the green areas to get it green. And then I don't think I record all this, but I go through all the metal areas and I'm just hitting them with lead belcher. Anything I want metal is going to get lead belcher. I don't even go back through and shade it. And just kind of do like one coat and done. Get some more thumb action here as you see me paint.
Yeah, but a better editing guy would have taken care of this, but
Yeah.
this one must have
Yeah.
slipped through.
It slipped through there. It's all
We're,
right.
we're gonna have to have a talk with that guy.
Yeah, but
Just
yeah,
like
I
the
mean,
production manager that sets up the camera at your house.
oh, I know, yeah, the production manager, just
These
real
guys are
bad.
terrible.
This camera guy and the editor.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, I mean, I basically it's like these knee areas that I hit, and then like the backpack and the belt and the weapon. I might with this guy as a weapon try out some of the like transitioning it to burnt, like a burnt weapon.
Yeah. I saw this and I was like, oh, you should totally
Yeah,
do that. You should try it. I want to see what happens.
that's kind of half the reason why I haven't shaded him yet, because I know if I get the shade out, I'm going to shade everything, and I'm like,
Right.
well, let me try that first, and then I'll shade it.
That's what happens too.
But this,
When you
yeah,
start putting this stuff on, you
yeah,
can't help but be like, well, I think it'll look good over here too.
Yeah, like as you quickly saw, you kind of saw the finished product of the SLAPCHOP.
Yeah, which we'll come back to at the end. We'll have a look at.
So now the second guy here that I'm painting, this is actually the miniature of the month that I got. I built him up, primed him, and I'm going to do this guy in the heavy metal style, is what it's called. I've never really specifically done anything like this hardcore and extreme in it. And I really wanted to take you through how I did the armor, because that's really what stands out on this guy. You show me painting the tabards that are green first. Whenever I do bone on anything, if there's like a green like that or like a prominent color, I just do it first. That way I don't like mess it up later. Like I can go back in with my primer and like clean up that edge. So you see me do that first. Because even too, like I'm going over everything here with Screaming Skull. You can see kind of on like around the head where I got like some green on and whatnot.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is just first layer, get everything essentially. Screaming Skull is like a tan, like your tan color, which is normally like a lighter tan than I regularly use. But I knew I was going to do some, more contrasted shading, so I was like, I'm just going to go for it.
Sure.
Yeah, no, like I said, this is my first time trying this type of style out and really doing any type of glazes at all. So is definitely an interesting type of process.
Yeah, I like the heavy metal style for sure. I haven't attempted it myself yet. I was closing in on trying such a thing, and then got the streak and grime and was like, ooh, I'm going to learn this instead. So
yeah,
this is where I've been at.
Right. So now I'm going through and glazing. I'm using a 2-to-1 mix of the Screaming Skull and XV88. And then in that 2-to-1 mix, I'm doing like a 3-to-1 almost of the Lamian. I don't even think I went thin enough on it. I was just basically adding it until it was like kind of pooling correctly. And you're essentially just like shading the bottom half of everything to make it look like worn out lower.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it wasn't too hard. You're just kind of putting on that lower half, getting it to pool in those kind of recess areas. Now the next step I'm on, I did Rhinoxide mixed with Mournfang Brown, mixed them up. It was basically like a 1-to-1 ratio. And I'm going to go through and hit all the recess shading. I don't go through and show all of that. I'll show some of it here, but it's kind of hard to like, I was like, if I try to film all this, hitting all these like weird edges, I'm going to mess up.
Sure.
So I'm going to show you some of it, and then you guys will see the finished product here at the end. But basically, like anything that's like a deep, sharp recess is getting this in it.
Yeah, kind of like anywhere 2 parts meet, right? This will kind of get a line.
Basically, yeah.
In the middle.
I think the back part of the lake here that you're seeing really like shows what you're looking for when you're gonna essentially, shade it in. And then this is kind of just the whole thing completed. And I mean, I think that just like it all just pops a lot. I mean, I think every piece is kind of standing out there pretty well.
Yeah, I think the transitions from light to dark like force your eye to move around the model.
Yeah.
Because it breaks up those big flat panels.
Yep.
And I think it's cool.
And then basically I'm just going around and I'm going to hit every edge highlight with this pale sand color, and just to help it pop a little bit more. It'll be a little bright when you first put it on, but then when it dries, it blends out a little bit. But I mean, it's something simple just to make those edges look a little bit sharper.
Yeah.
So
because if you think about like if something was actually worn or dirty or whatever, like the edges are the cleanest part because they see the most like kind of wear and tear.
Yep, absolutely.
So here we have all 3 models as the finish, sort of side by side.
Yeah, both the models side by side.
Or yeah. I'm sorry, 3 photos.
And then yeah, I mean, I thought it was an interesting thing to try. I mean, the one thing that I've always complained about the SLAPCHOP is when you're doing these flat panels, you don't really get cool shading that you'd want. I feel like the shading turns out just a little bit better, and I think it just makes more sense almost in a way on that like heavy metal style versus the SLAPCHOP.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
but I think they both. I mean, they're similar enough to where these dudes could be in the same army or whatever side by side, and like you wouldn't.
yeah,
I don't think you'd really think too much of it. So
right, yeah, and that's the thing is like they don't ever be in like the same unit. They might be on the table together, but you're not going to see them generally like side by side. So I think it works, and I know with the new Deathwing Knight who's on the right, I'll end up doing the rest of his squad in like that style for sure. So
all right,
but yeah, no. So thanks again for checking out this one. This is my week 5, I think.
I think it is week 5. Yeah, and on that note, I don't think I'm gonna have a week 5. I was kind of last minute getting my week 4 in, which just snowballed me into being late on my week 5. So I will have like a week 7, 6 weeks of SLAPCHOP, very likely. But my week 6 is gonna be a pretty awesome one, I think. And then my week 7, I'm actually gonna go back and fix my week 1. Is I believe my plan.
Yeah, no, yeah. Thanks for joining us. Check out our other videos. Remember to like and subscribe if you're not already. Help out that YouTube algorithm type of stuff. And really join us in our next one as we continue the song.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.